Hello everybody, welcome to Untether.tv, where we have casual conversations with mobile rock stars. And I have one, from a research perspective. This is a very interesting topic. We're going to be speaking in a moment about turning apps into cash. A report that a company in Boston, it's Simon-Kucher Partners, put together a survey, and we're going to be talking about the results, about how to turn your app into cash and some of the strategies around doing that effectively. Certainly we're going to be talking about the results, but with me to talk about that is Maxie Schmidt-Subramanian. Did I do that right?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Oh.
Hi.
Well, that was the hardest part. The whole time I was doing the introduction, all I was thinking about is I'm gonna butcher her name, and I do not want to do that. Welcome, Maxie. Now that I've got the last name out of the way, I can actually now just call you Maxie, and we can move forward. It's a really interesting thing because we've spent a lot of time here in Untether, and I think in the mobile industry, trying to understand what it takes to build an app and then try to sell that app, and how to price that, and how to actually make some money in the app space. I know that Gartner has come out with some reports over the last couple of days talking about 2011 being the app economy, just apps, being worth $15 billion. And we've seen some reports that by 2013, this entire market space is going to be worth $25 billion. And it can't all be one company like Rovio and Angry Birds making all that money. So there's got to be a way for other companies to make money. So I really appreciate you coming on and helping us understand how to make cash with apps. A lot of effort went into them. So thank you, Maxie, for coming on and sharing this story with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So why don't you give us a little bit of background about what Simon-Kucher Partners is? You're a pretty large organization. I know you're in Boston, but let's talk about what you guys do.
So Simon-Kucher Partners, if you want to say in a nutshell, we're very global strategy marketing consulting company. So we're operating in 17 countries around the world with 23 offices. And what clients typically come to us for is when they have they're challenged by how to best, let's say, price their product or product line, for example. They would like to turn users into more revenue. So they come and say, okay, can you help us do some bundling exercise with us? How should we bundle our products? How can we price those bundles? What target segments have more willingness to pay than others? So those are the typical things we help companies with. Come up with the right pricing strategy and the right prices for their products for a specific audience.
Now, do you help them with the with shaping? I mean, do they come with you with a product and say, okay, now help us, where should this go, or do you come and help them shape the industry that they should go into as well?
Yeah, there are many examples of both things. Like, we have projects where companies coming to us and they're asking us, okay, we have this new technology and we think this is really valuable, but we're not quite sure who we can sell this to, who will be willing to pay for this, and how much will they be willing to pay for that, and is it really valuable, and what parts of it are valuable and what are not. So what we really excel in, and what our basically bread and butter is every day, is doing what we call value-based pricing. Because, I mean, you might know pricing, you can look at the competition, what do they do? You can look at what costs you have. But those are also all not helping you really price your products right, because you want to price your products where they exploit the willingness to pay of your customers.
Absolutely.
And that's what we help companies with. So we're not a research company as such, we're a consulting company. So usually we help companies define the problem and try to find the right research approach. It could be just interviewing 10 people because the market is so small, we're talking to key accounts. It could be a large-scale study among 10,000 consumers because we're talking about a consumer good. So we're shaping that research, then we're conducting the research, and then we bring all of this together and give recommendations on how to get more profit. So because that's what we're basically doing. We increase companies' profits.
It's pretty amazing because pricing is it's such a science, and you can, I've heard this many times, and I've run a number of companies, and the advice that I've always received on just simple pricing is you never underprice, because you've established your value at a low value at a low dollar mark, and
Exactly.
it relates so well into the mobile space because everybody came out with products that the norm now on App Store and most of the other app the app markets is 99 cents or $1.99, and there are
Yes.
companies that challenge now to build a company around a product that sells for 99 cents. So we're going to get into that, but I was always on the side of, well, I'm going to charge too much until the market tells me that that's too much, and then I'll bring my price down in accordance. Or I'm going to find a market that I can sell into that will accept that price. And that's ultimately what you guys do, right? You help marry those two.
Yes.
It's very valuable because, that the science of pricing, people are not good at it, right?
Yeah, a lot of that is done by feel, what you think might be right. A lot of what we're fighting against is that, but if the price increases, we'll lose market share. That's going to be a problem. Yeah. And then we usually say, okay, why don't you multiply the price and the units, and with the new price, you'll have less market share, but your profit, your revenue, which equals profit in that instance, will be higher. So why not go for that? But then we also have to see what kind of industry you're in. If you want to gain market share quickly, then you have to have a totally different pricing strategy than if you just want to skim the market. The market is very mature. You want to take out of the market what you can. So that's why you are right. It is a science. It depends very much on the actual project, the actual problem of the company.
Yeah, I've always been in businesses where I believe that it's not so much the market share that I'm interested in. It's actually generating. I'll sacrifice 1 million customers if I guarantee 100,000 sales at a higher price that equals greater profits. And reaching those 1 million customers is going to cost me a lot of money anyways. So why wouldn't I just hone my market niche where I'm supposed to be and price accordingly? And ultimately, what you guys do, I think, is a very valuable service, especially if it impacts bottom line in revenue profits.
You have a very advanced understanding of this whole pricing thing, so why don't you just come and start here?
Okay, fair enough. I'm on my way. Boston it is, although I'm a Yankees fan, so that would be a challenge for me to wear my Yankees shirt. Sorry. I can't help it. But how did you get involved in this? What's your role inside of Simon-Kucher?
Simon-Kucher Partners has, let's say, 500 people, so we're a pretty small organization. And what I'm working for is the competence center that deals with telecommunication, software, internet companies. So I'm a senior consultant in Simon-Kucher Partners, and here we usually kind of we follow the market, right? And then we see some kind of interesting trend. For example, we saw the iPhone was introduced, paving the way for smartphones, and then we kind of saw, okay, those apps are all priced at 99 cents and $1.99, or they're free. So this is a pricing challenge. There are a million apps. I mean, there aren't really a million apps, but it feels like there are all those apps out there that do the same thing. A lot of competitive pressure, and we kind of just following the industry and seeing that kind of problem, and thinking, okay, we want to, from a growth perspective, we want to see how can the industry really grow given the pressures it's under. And like any industry that's just emerging, when was the Apple iPhone? It's like 2.5 years ago. Yeah. It's a very young industry.
Yes.
So like any young industry, pricing is usually not on the mind of people in the very beginning, and they do it just by feeling, and that's how we end up with a pricing structure like 99 cents for apps, for example. So we saw all this and said, okay, we want to make a contribution to this. We want to bring basically our pricing knowledge into that field, and did that study to get some background on consumption patterns, download behavior. Are people willing to pay for apps?
Well, it's such a great question.
That was the background of that study.
Well, so I've been in the computer and the IT space for quite some time, in the software space. And tell me if I'm wrong, though. When something is introduced, when a new paradigm is introduced, like desktop computing, for example, I've spent way too much money on early computers, thousands and thousands of dollars. I once spent like $7,000 on a laptop, one of the very first laptops that I can get my hands on. and now the equivalent is in my I don't know, my mouse has more computing power than that laptop did, and the mouse cost $10. But at the time, it just seems like every time you introduce a paradigm, it's expensive to be in that. It's expensive to play in there. So the first version of all those software packages that I bought were very expensive. The computer was very expensive, and it just kind of continued. If you think of all kind of consumer goods like a DVD player, very expensive. MP3 players were very expensive when they came out. Blu-ray players were very expensive, and there's a premium on everything that goes in there. So in comes this smartphone, like an iPhone. They launched the App Store, and it's raced to the bottom as quickly as you can. It kind of bucked the trend. It went from I'd spent a lot of money on my iPhone to spending 99 cents on an application, and there was no expensive phase, was there? Was that odd for you guys to see?
It's a very good observation that you're making there.
Yeah, well,
it is odd to see.
I'm perplexed by it.
Yes, but we have a little bit of that the feeling that might be because there are so many players all of a sudden playing in the market that are not experienced in pricing at all. Because if you come up with a new laptop, you've put all that money into developing it, and you have pricing experts in the house. I mean, Apple would never ever come out with a cheap phone and then try to sell it a little higher than next to you. No, they do it the other way around. They just skim. I mean, that's a typical strategy. But because the experienced actors weren't actually playing such a big role, we had that problem. And the people tried to set the prices low. I believe it was Sega Super Monkey that first had that 0.99 cent price point, a $99 price point. So then suddenly that becomes the industry norm and people don't question it.
But even if you look at it, and we're kind of getting into this a little bit now because you're right. So it's the experience of the people behind the applications. Some people equate their time and effort with the price that they should charge, right? So if something takes them a week to build or 2 weeks to build, they feel guilty about charging anything more than $1.99. Which is somewhat backwards, because if it creates a value and there's a market, you can charge whatever that market is willing to bear. But even Apple, and all of their wisdom, started offering their equivalent to the Office suite of Pages and their presentation software for $9.99. So it kind of adjusted everybody's sensibilities around what they should pay for software. I mean, that's what I'm seeing just kind of 2 years into this. Is that, you think that's accurate? Is that the expectation to pay for software has a full price? Nobody's going to spend $60 or $80 on a game anymore because they've been adjusted. Their pricing model has been adjusted in their head. You think that's what we're seeing here?
Yes, I think that's exactly what we're seeing. I think that's what happens in other industries too. If you're not very careful, you'll destroy the price level of an industry completely, and you'll never recover from that. Because even if you could raise prices, you've lost so much in price that there's just no way out of that. That's completely what happened. And the real challenges, because people when they set those small prices, they were just thinking, oh, I want to get into the market, and they weren't thinking about what value the application or the software can actually bring. And by not balancing that, they destroyed the market. Yes.
So this is a challenge. So you guys want to try to figure out how people are playing in this market right now, and what their proclivity to spend is, and do people buy apps, or I read a statistic that something like 85 or 90% of all applications that are available in these app stores are free, which skews the pricing completely. And as we were saying, it adjusts the people's mindset. So I mean, you wanted to get into this to figure out what the market was and how it operates. And when you went in there and you did this survey, what were some of the surprising things that came out of this that you thought, well, that's it goes against all of our collective knowledge in pricing, and we're heading for a cliff, or can we recover from this? So what was the most surprising thing you found in this report, the outcome?
Actually, we found something that was not surprising to us, but it seems surprising for the industry. we found that applications that deliver value, that they can have a price tag.
Wow.
And that's a very important message, I think. So, of course, if you're the third app that does exactly the same like others, which are for free, you'll have trouble charging for your app. But if you deliver a service that customers find interesting and that makes their life easier, that makes their life more fun, then you can actually charge money for that. So that was something that didn't surprise me as a pricing consultant, but it was good to hear in the context. Also, what surprised me was that when we talked to people, when we asked people what is important in deciding for an app, price was, of course, number one driver. But you know what followed, like right close to that after price as the next important driver?
What is it?
It's reviews of other customers. And for the Android users that we had in our survey, that was even on par with pricing. So they thought this was as important for their decision for an app as the price. So that's why I think it's very important for developers to get good reviews, to encourage customers to write good reviews. And why I'm wondering why the App Store, the Apple App Store at least, as far as I know, never allows you to sort by review.
Right. So it's,
right.
I mean, I think you can sort by star ratings, but not by affirmative reviews or negative reviews, right?
Exactly.
So when you look at that, where there's a balance, do you think that maybe this is a subjective question, but do you think that you could take a product into the App Store at a certain price point, like $1.99, which I think is crazy. Like, you know, the effort that goes into it is worth more than $1.99. But you bring it in at $1.99, and then as your reviews of the product actually increase and they're positive reviews, did you see a trend of people raising their prices simply because the product reviews were increasing, or did they just rely on volume to generate revenue?
I mean, the relying on volume is what's happened, right? People want to be in the top lists because, as we also found out in our study, 9 out of 10 people look into those top 25, top 50 lists when they buy applications. So we know this whole discussion about being priced at the right point to be in those lists. The idea to increase your prices because the reviews are getting better would be a good idea, but it's just a little late once you're in the market. But I'm not saying there's no chance. I mean, once you're so popular that people really want to sign up for your app, you might as well increase your price. There's no thing stopping you. I don't know of an actual example of an app where that has happened, though.
Most apps come in at a price and then basically go down. They plummet. They pull the one lever that a lot of companies have once they get into the App Store is price, right? That's really what people rely on at this point. Is that I think there's a natural curve, isn't there, when you put a product in and you've done your marketing beforehand and you put a product into the App Store, you're going to go from 0 purchases to a number. So it's a pretty clear line up. And then you kind of crest, and if you don't hit that top 100 or so, you start that precipitous fall that if you looked at every app except for the, a very few corner cases, they start to fall, and then they start to scramble. I've seen developers kind of scramble and say, "Oh my, how do I get back up there?" So they just cut their price to 99 cents, and it gives them a little bump, but it's only short-lived, because once you're at 99 cents, the odds of you raising that to $1.99 again is very low, and
you just cut half your profits.
Yeah. So, but is that just an inexperience, a lack of experience from the development standpoint? Or is this just is this how people do it? It's like the discount rack on bread that's about to go stale. You go into a grocery store, you'll get it for 99 cents, but you have 3 days to eat it, or a day to eat it. I mean, is that what this is? We just consume these apps so quickly and then forget about them. And can they adjust from this?
I'm not sure I can answer that question because just because there's so much going on, but you can see from other industries that there's exactly the same problem. You see moon discounts, you see people desperately scrambling to lower prices because they want to sell, they want to gain more share.
Yep.
And it's once you lower your prices, it's really incredibly hard to get back up with your prices. So that is certainly a similar problem that we're seeing there.
So when you look at this survey, and was there anything that really was there any one product or one category of products that you looked at that said, you know what, they can actually charge proportionally higher than everybody else? You know, and I think that might have a lot to do with trends. You know, photography applications seem to trend very well, so they're a little bit higher in price versus kind of games or similar games in style. There's a lot of those, and that you can't charge very high in that. Was it that kind of trending, or was there a specific type of app that you thought, listen, you know what, go into that business because you can charge $20 for that app?
If we do that, that business would be down next day. Because there are two important things you need to keep in mind. One of the most liked app category, most downloaded app category was, not surprisingly, games.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you could say, okay, why don't you sell a game because people really like games? But on the other hand, as you already said, there's so many other people selling games out there. So, you know, value for money is really not very big. But then still, I mean, Angry Birds sells. Yeah. And so it's not so much about the trend, which kind of application category you're in. It's more about whether your application can provide some kind of special value to the customer that he or she is willing to pay for. And that could be a game that's like amazingly made. That could be a nice photography application because the iPhone doesn't do a very nice job on taking pictures. So we'll see a lot of single apps in all kinds of categories that will be very successful. No. So there might be some trends, but it's not necessarily that being in a certain app category will make you profitable app developer.
So really, you know, we've gone through this phase right now. We've gone through this, you know, there are 300,000 apps in App Store Plus, and then there's probably 750,000 apps out there right now in various application stores across all platforms. And the volume, the number of that is, the sheer number of those is so high. You know, findability is so impossible. And, you know, that's why everybody relies on getting into that top 100 or top 50 or top 25 in their categories. So at this point, it really isn't a matter of, it shouldn't be a matter of pricing right now. You should stabilize, or we hope that it stabilizes, and then you price according to the value that the product provides. I mean, I'll spend $20 on an application. In fact, I did an exercise application, and I had no problem spending that because the value that I got was tremendous. It was what I was looking for. So what kind of advice can you give to some people that are out there based on the results of your surveys? What kind of advice can you give them on how to price accordingly, how to price their product so that they can actually make some money? Because I want these guys to survive like everybody else does. And there are hobby guys, and then there are businesses. And the businesses, how should they be looking at this from a pricing standpoint?
I thought, by the way, it was interesting when you said that we shouldn't do pricing right now. We should let the market stabilize and then price according to value. That is the assumption that pricing always means to lower your prices. But pricing is exactly also what you're saying, is pricing according to value. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're doing usually. And you asked me how guys can actually earn some money with their application. And we must both be pretty honest about this. So if you have the fourth application doing exactly the same thing, and you don't get some lucky break because you're featured in a blog or in some kind of TV show that people want to buy exactly that app, then it's really hard to earn money with an app.
Yeah.
But then you can also say, okay, value. What's the value? The value is like the other apps that are out there also. So I have to do my pricing according to competition, and then I'll end up at 99 cents.
Yes.
I mean, if you knew all the other developers and they'd be your friends and you'd educate them in pricing, maybe they would all on their own realize that that's not the right price point and would do something about that. But you can't do this on a large scale because that would be illegal.
Yes, it's collusion.
So,
yes.
Yes, exactly. So that's not what you can do. But if it's given that you have an app that can do something special, then there are loads of ways to try to find out what customers would be willing to pay for an app, what the value of an app is. Let me give you an example.
Sure.
In our study, we were wondering, okay, there's the CNN News app. It sells for $199.
Yep.
And it's been criticized for actually asking for so much money because other news apps are for free. So what we did, people didn't know, I mean, we didn't say it's this news app, but we asked them, okay, for a news app that can pretty much do the same thing. You know, you can read the news, you can write some comments if you want, you can download videos, same things. What do you think is kind of like an acceptable price, or when does a price get a little bit expensive? So you're like, or when is it really too expensive?
Yeah.
And we went through this exercise with the people and found out that a considerable share of people would still buy this app at $4.99. So we're talking about $4.99 instead of $1.99. And even though that share of users who will download the app will decrease, if you go through the motions and calculate the willingness to buy that app and so on that we all asked in the study, you get to 40% plus in revenue.
Wow. Just
by pricing the app right. I mean, you could just go ahead, do the app $4.99, and then offer the $1.99 version also with some features stripped out of it.
Yep.
So you have more choice, right? So it's also the market. But this was just to highlight how with a few tools that are, you know, in our industry pretty standard, you can figure out what value customers place in an app, how much are they willing to pay.
You know, it's funny because a lot of companies are building applications around this freemium model, and they are hoping that they get a massive number of downloads, a huge volume of downloads, and then they can throw advertising on there as well, and that's another viable business model, but it's completely different, and when you look at an outlet like CNN, or any news outlets, you know that's probably their strategy. So it runs against the gamut to charge for their apps.
Yes. But
boy, when they're already charging and they're undercharging for the value that somebody would pay twice as much for, that's pretty incredible. That's a pretty incredible number to me. Where you know they're just missing out on pure revenue.
Yes. I mean, even you're right. There are two kinds of actors in the market, right? So there are the people who develop apps to make a living, and there are the people who make apps to have more reach, like, for example, CNN maybe, or Facebook, you know. And the pressure on the app revenue that you can generate is, of course, a little different.
Yep.
But at the same point, why leave money on the table? It's not a very... And it's not about the CNN app, because that could be any app. We just used one app that we could describe very easily in the study, and yep. People would understand what it's about, right? They don't have to try it out. So that was interesting to us. And the other thing is that you can go with so many things. You mentioned the freemium strategy. It's a very good idea to offer your app for free and have some upgrading options if you so have anything that you can upgrade to.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, many things are possible, but what is your app capable of? In our study, we found out that 80% of users actually pay for an app because they've tried the free version and yep. really liked it. So there is a demand for that, but not every app is can do that kind of thing.
And I've seen I've seen some great examples of applications that tried to go to a freemium version, so they, you know, you get a certain subset of features for free, and then you pay to unlock the rest. But they have a hard time convincing anybody to unlock the rest because it's either more of the same, or they're small features that are only unique or needed for a niche group. I use very religiously on both my PC and my iPad and my iPhone a product called Evernote, and it's a great product. I love this product, and I just use the free version because their premium version that would cost very little money. The features that I'm getting out of it aren't enough to convince me. So they haven't done a great job of having that threshold where I have to make a decision. If I want to synchronize, like here's a perfect example of a way that they could sell that product is that you can have it on your PC and you can have it on your iPad and you can have it on your iPhone, but if you want to synchronize between all three of them, you have to pay for the premium version, right? And that the premium version is like $10 a year. That would convince me. They might have 1 million users, but they have small. Their conversion rate, they said, was less than 2%, and I'm pretty sure that they'd be happy with an 80% conversion rate on 250,000 users. That makes sense to me. It means that they're going to be around. So when you look at this, when you look at you take all the experience that Simon-Kucher Partners has in the pricing space, and you look at what's going on in the mobile space, is this really sustainable? Can people actually make a living the way that this is going right now? Or do you hope that things change enough so that people start to inflate their prices to the value that they're creating in the product?
They need to, because I think the people who are able to do that, they will make a living, and the rest of the people will just vanish at some point.
Yes.
Although there are enough other options to earn money with your application without actually charging the user. Let's not forget this. You talked about ads already. We can talk about an app like Checkpoint, where you get people scan products all over the place and sell that to the producer because their products are going to be featured. So there are other ways, but for people who really want to earn money with pricing, they need to become more sophisticated in pricing. And just to give you an example, if you need a new software package, you have exactly the same problem, right? Usually what happens, especially if they've consulted with us, you'll see a light version, a medium version, a bigger version, and maybe like an amazing showcase version.
Yeah.
You'll not go for the light version because, light, you don't mean light. You do not go for the super expensive one, but you'll go for in the middle.
Right.
And the features have to be designed right to what is actually valuable to you. So we take great pains in doing this. And what I want to stress here is that it's not easy to say, okay, the light version can do this and this, and the medium can do this, and the other can this, and those are the price differences.
Yeah.
Like with the Evernote example, for example. It takes us 3 to 4 months to figure a lineup out for a company, for a software company selling different packages, to make exactly sure that we fence off the light product and make sure that the users go towards the medium product, the bigger product. So I think when developers become more sophisticated in their pricing methods, the sophistication of the market will grow, and then
they'll be able to actually sell product. Well, then they'll be able to sell product. It's pricing psychology. It comes down to it, doesn't it? Because it's the reason why you have small, medium, and large beverages at McDonald's, or sizes at McDonald's of French fries, or at Starbucks, is because small's too small, and the large is too large, but the medium is the one where people spend most of their cash on it. And when it comes down to, even in the mobile space, is that we're offering a light and a full baked version, and there's this industry obviously has to evolve a little bit in order to be able to become a little bit more sophisticated and satisfy a lot more needs. You said something that sophistication in pricing, which is interesting, because that's what's missing here, and even in the big brands that are getting involved in the mobile applications, they're forgetting all of their the history of pricing that has gone into making their products successful on other mediums, and they're coming in and they're not pricing according to the value. They're not pricing according to a business model or a business plan. They're pricing according to a global trading place, like a global market like the App Store. And they're looking at the average prices and saying, well, we don't want to be too much higher than the average price or too much lower than the average price. And I'm so, whenever I see that, I'm so astounded, because all the effort that went into growing their businesses successfully has been thrown out because, a couple of guys started charging 99 cents for an app. And I would hope that would change. So when you look at what happened with the survey and the research that you did, is there a changing trend here that we can follow, or are we still in that such an early stage in the mobile app space that it's going to be like this for a little while longer?
What you can see is that there's still many people selling at 99 cents, which is a problem. But you can also see that topics like in-app purchases become much more prominent since Apple actually allowed it. You can see that the companies, they're selling this as a light product, and then you look at it, there's actually a $14.95 subscription fee every month.
Yeah.
It was a certain app, I think it was Brain Trainer or something like that. It was like, astonishing. And then there are apps where you can just spend $150 on a tank of fish.
Yeah.
So I think there is there's some interesting trial and error going on with pricing, and I call it trial and error, but I don't mean it in a derogatory way. Don't mean it condescending, because you have to try out different things. But we also believe that trial and error will not yield the best results. But you have to evaluate the possible strategies. Like some kind of grid will help you to get your target population, will help you to actually make the profit that you want to make, and then make a decision. But there are many people out there who now try to find different ways to price, to get money out of apps, let's put it that way. Also the trend to pay per use. You pay per music song that you download on the app instead of paying for the app itself. So getting this recurring revenue, this is a trend that I'm definitely seeing, and this is a very positive trend. That is how you make money. You don't have this high price up front where you might scare customers away, but then in the app you create clever price models and clever strategies to upsell people.
So after all that, when we look at what's going on in the marketplace, and we know what we know what's working and what's not working. We hope that people change the way that they're doing business so that it can accommodate and multiple software companies, and these guys can survive. Why don't we just basically give us an overview, a summary of what it is that we've talked about here today, about some of the factors to consider when pricing in the app space. I'll push that over to you, Maxie, to kind of summarize what it is.
Great. Yes. So what the main thing is we need to keep in mind is that an app that delivers value for the customer can have a price tag. So this is the whole turning point of the app. You need to make sure that price your apps at what they're worth to a customer. So things to consider for that are, for example, what kind of willingness to pay do your target segments have? Is there a niche that might be willing to pay more for certain features? How much do you change the life of your users? Where are psychological price thresholds that you shouldn't outprice yourself off? The other thing is that, apart from getting that actual price point right, is that you should think about new and innovative pricing models, like trying to get onto a recurring revenue, subscription-based models, pay per use, use the components in the app to in-app purchases. So this is what I think we need. So we need value-based pricing, we need the right price point, and we need the right price models.
Right. And then you kind of alluded to it earlier. You just do you disregard what the average price in the App Store and focus on what your company needs and what your product's value is and price on that instead of comparing it to the average price in these app stores? You recommend that as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I love the innovation that's happening in some of these sectors, and I love the fact that everybody who's a software developer can get into business in the mobile space very quickly. But I also want them to be around. I want to create a little ecosystem around these apps. The app stores are littered with carcasses of dead companies, and that can't be good for the mobile space. So we want them all to succeed. Definitely want them all to succeed. Yes,
and for that we need more pricing sophistication, definitely. I mean, among all the other factors that are important for surviving, getting the pricing right is a science.
Yes.
It's not just gut feeling.
Well, and so Simon-Kucher Partners has an app for that, doesn't it?
Yes, actually they do. So you know that our motto is smart profit growth. So we believe that you don't have to fight for market share, rather fight for profit, because that's what is in your wallet after all. So we have an app that you can download. I think it's called Simon-Kucher, and you can actually figure out what happens if you decrease your price because you might be under pressure. You want to decrease your price a little. What happens to your profits? And what, on the other hand, happens if you increase your price? So you can play around with some factors, put your costs in there, and that might help you make some, or at least understand some trade-offs that you're facing in the market, or that they're facing in the market with developers.
And it's free, right? So you guys are...
It is actually free.
Let me ask, do you know why it's free versus a price, or is it just to extend the brand?
Yes, it's a reach out. It's a reach out app, and it's actually we see this app as a service to our clients. We think it makes us more credible if we have that, and we all think it's pretty cool to take it to the client, and then they're also excited about downloading it. Yeah. So it's not, we don't want to make money with it, but maybe we should think about it.
Exactly. Yeah, add a little bit of sophistication. There's your light version, and a little bit more smarts in it, and you could sell it, but just don't sell it for 99 cents, right? Because 99 cents is an inconvenience fee rather than a profit fee, and I firmly believe that if you're going to charge 99 cents, you might as well give it away, because the 66 cents that you're going to collect is not really going to keep you in business.
There are very few companies who can pull that off. Very few.
And we're seeing that every day. So, Maxie, this has been great, because the definitive answer here is something that I think instinctively we all know as business people. If you come from the business side, is that people will pay for value, and you price accordingly to the value that you're going to provide. And then the questions don't start to look at how do I make the 17th of the same app that's already up there. It's how do I find a market that is underserved, that I can build an application for and charge accordingly so that they will pay for it, and kind of disregard the numbers that you see, the average app sales that you see, because it's not gonna, you're not gonna be able to sustain yourself. You're gonna be a factory of apps that at $1 a time isn't gonna lead to anything of great value. And then if it is volume, obviously go after something that is highly downloadable and you can make a living off of it with advertising, or with actually creating a light or a medium and a complex version of the product so that you can sell it accordingly. It just inherently makes sense, and I'm hoping that the shift comes, and I'm hoping that kind of expressing this here at Untether.tv and everywhere where you guys are going to promote this, that people, app developers specifically, start to think that way, that pricing is not an art, it is a science, and it needs to be, you've got to think thoroughly about what you're about to price your product in, because once you're there, there's certainly no way to, not an easy way to start to increase your price when you're at the bottom of the barrel at 99 cents. Is that kind of...
You seem to be... I could not have put this any better, Rob. Okay. You captured the complete essence of what I would like app developers to think about.
Well, then I'm hoping that what I've done here, and by bringing you here to express this, I think that hopefully we'll touch a few of the people that watch this. If you do have any comments, and you are watching this or listening to this, let me know, and let Maxie know, and let her team know if we're on, we're off, if the stuff that we've said in here resonates or doesn't with you. But my sense is, after speaking with a lot of these guys who are building these applications, it does. The realization is very quickly that it comes very quickly that you definitely need a product strategy or a pricing strategy around your product before you launch, or because then it's too late once it goes. Is that about right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, you can of course develop a product and then never recoup the costs. But if you don't want to end in that position, then you need a pricing strategy as soon as you plan the product.
Yeah, you sold me, Maxie. Absolutely 100%. So where can people find a little bit more information about, they can search the App Store, obviously, for Simon-Kucher, Kucher, for the app. And where can they find some more information? Your website?
Yes. The best thing is probably www.simon, Kucher, Kucher.com. And you'll find everything. There are white papers also. There's also a summary of the study that we've done. You can download it there also. Okay.
Well, I'll direct people there. There'll be a direct link somewhere, probably right up there, for this post where you'll be able to download the results of this and the 8 factors to consider, which are great. It's a great summary of what people should be doing to think about, turning their apps into cash. Maxie, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time and coming on to explain this and enlighten the folks who watch this show. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.